Welcome to Concussion Talk Podcast. I'm Nick Mercer. This is episode 70. I'll be talking to Melissa Medeiros of Surrey Neuroplasticity Clinic. I hope you consider supporting Concussion Talk Podcast by liking, rating, and subscribing to wherever you get your podcasts. Concussion Talk Podcast is presented by HeadCheck Health. HeadCheck Health bridges the gaps in concussion care through simple, powerful technology. Join organizations like the Canadian Football League, Track Factory Racing, the Canadian Junior Hockey League, Eastern Washington University, and Volleyball Canada, who rely on HeadCheck Health to improve communication and optimize care. Visit headcheckhealth.com for more. Okay, Melissa Medeiros, can you please explain to people, well, I guess first of all, who you are, and then I'll ask you about Surrey Neuroplasticity Clinic. But first of all, who is Melissa Medeiros, and what does she do at SNPC?
Great. Yeah. Thank you for having me on the podcast. As you said, my name's Melissa Medeiros. I'm an occupational therapist, and I work at the Surrey Neuroplasticity Clinic, where I'm also the clinical operations supervisor. And so I've been interested in brain injury for a very long time, since I did my undergraduate degree in psychology at the University of British Columbia. And I was just fascinated by this invisible injury that so many people were walking around with that you would have no idea just to look at them. Yeah. And so that sort of led me to pursue a career in some kind of brain rehabilitation. I just knew that I wanted to do some kind of work with the brain and with the people who were suffering from different kinds of neurological illnesses and injuries.
I actually want to ask you about that first, but first I'll get you to talk about, or do you want to talk about this first? What sparked your interest in brain injury? Was there any specific thing, or just interesting things, stories you're hearing, or lessons you're learning during your undergraduate degree?
Yeah, I actually had a really great professor in my undergrad degree, and he invited in a person who had a brain injury about 10 years previously, and it was a really, really severe injury. Yeah. And he came and he chatted with our class, and I was one of the lucky few who was invited to just get a coffee with him after the class as well, to kind of chat with him more personally. And I was just completely blown away by the brain's ability to heal, because this man who had such a severe brain injury had come from not able to walk or talk to now 10 years later, we're speaking, and I wouldn't have known that he had an injury. And so I was just absolutely fascinated by the brain's capacity to come back from something like that.
Well, there you go. It was great. It's a familiar story. Unfortunately, fortunate that it is a story, but it's unfortunate that it actually has to happen, and it's so little known about it. But from there, let's. So what is Surrey Neuroplasticity Clinic? I mean, I checked your website, and your team is enormous. I couldn't even. I mean, there's so many. Just you have your technology and your videos. Like, it's a great website. About, like, I checked out the concussion portion of it, and again, that is amazing. That is huge, and a lot of great resources. So, I guess before I laud you too much, explain what is the Surrey Neuroplasticity Clinic, and what services do you offer there?
Yeah, so the Surrey Neuroplasticity Clinic it's a rehabilitation clinic in Surrey, which is just outside of Vancouver, British Columbia. And we started the clinic about a year and a half ago. It was just in March of 2019. And so it's very new. Yeah. It's also a really sort of unique clinic in the sense that we have partners, almost like brother and sister companies that we work with. So Health Tech Connects is the company that we sort of were born out of. And the clinic it started because before it was a clinic, it was a research site. and that was under Health Tech Connects. And so it
And
was
sorry,
researching.
what kind of research was done there?
Yeah, it was pretty much all clinical trials.
Okay.
And one of the clinical trials that they ran here, it was one of the sites for the PONS clinical trial.
Oh well,
And
actually, before everybody talk about that, you can finish talking about the neuroplasticity clinic and then get on to well, you can start talking about technology, the ponds and the neural catch. But
yeah,
I'll let you describe the whole clinic. It's all your show. Go for it.
yeah. So I'll explain more about what those things
Yeah.
are, but basically the people who were involved were just so blown away by all of this that they thought, we should really just start a clinic and be
Yeah.
offering this here. And so that's what they did. And that's when I came on board, was when the clinic was just starting up. And so it's we have, yeah, like you say, a lot of people who work with us, alongside us. We have a lot of experts that we're able to consult, and we have a lot of technology at our fingertips that we can
Mm-hmm.
use to
Yes.
to help clients. So it's a clinic that's really focused on the leading technology and the leading research that we can harness to get the best outcomes for our clients.
Yeah, because actually I was reading about you, and I know you're a big yogi, and
Yeah.
I love yoga as well, and but so obviously those the breathing and relaxation are very important methods for well being as well. But technology in the sphere of brain injury is just fascinating. There's so much great technology out there, and obviously so little is known about the brain and brain injury, even though a lot is being learned every day. But it's just fascinating that how much technology, what type of technology is being introduced, and how it can be used for what it's, but technology is for that to make our lives better, to help us, and if it can be used in rehabilitation, then all the better. So
Mhm.
I know you're starting out with the neuroplasticity clinic is the first in Canada that does neurocatch. What is neurocatch?
Yeah, so NeuroCatch, it's a technology that was developed by Health Tech Connects, and so they're the company that I was mentioning. They're kind of like our brother, our sister company, and so we've had the benefit of using their technology really early on and providing them feedback as they're developing newer versions. So the NeuroCatch is a assessment. It's a brain vital signs framework, and it's an EEG machine. So you put this cap onto your head, you get kind of strapped in there, and
Okay.
there's a few electrodes that have a little bit of gel put into them for helping with conduction. And then it's just a 6 minute scan. So it's a 6 minute little EEG scan, and it takes a 6 minute recording of the activity that's going on in your brain, and it can measure your auditory sensation, your basic attention, and also your cognitive processing.
So
So we get
is this done in the clinic or is this done in a hospital? The EG.
We have it in the clinic. It can be available. It can be done anywhere. It's portable,
Oh,
which is
great.
part of what makes it really convenient. So
Yeah.
we've had our clinicians even take it to hockey rinks and do the assessment on hockey players right after they get off the ice, and we get a little look at the objective recordings of what is going on in their brain. How quickly is their brain responding to this auditory stimulus?
And also I rudely cut you off before you were talking about. Started talking about the pawns system. So can you please
Mm-hmm.
explain what that is and what it's used for predominantly now?
Yeah, absolutely. So the PONS device, the PONS, it stands for Portable Neuromodulation Stimulator. So it's sort of like this backwards necklace. So you wear it around your neck. It goes around, and then the mouthpiece plugs into the front, and you
And
take
so
this little mouth.
is there like a wire from the neck piece to the?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's kind of like this neck piece. If you've seen the headphones that sort of have like a piece that goes around your neck and then they
Right.
plug into your
Okay.
ears, very similar. It's very similar to that.
Okay.
So the mouthpiece just goes in your mouth from the front of the sort of like the collar, I suppose, or the we
Yeah.
call it the controller.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's just a very small little paddle. You just put it on the front one third of your tongue, and it delivers a very mild electrical current to the tongue. So it's used, and I can explain more about how it works, but
Okay.
it's
No, please do. Go ahead for it. Go for it.
yeah, it's used for uh, people who are struggling with balance and gait problems, and it's been labeled for use by Health Canada for mild to moderate traumatic brain injury, and
Okay.
recently
Uh,
multiple sclerosis was also added to the label.
okay. So you see people with multiple sclerosis and brain injuries and stroke, and is that predominantly your clientele or
Yeah, I would
patient?
say that the majority is people who've had a brain injury and people with multiple sclerosis. But we do also have people coming in who've had a stroke, as well as Parkinson's disease. And really, we have a lot of people contact us with all sorts of uncommon disorders who are just sort of out of options and are looking for something to help.
And so, as you're not OT, and a lot of the stuff you talked about gait and I don't know, you haven't talked about the bounce. That's another
Mhm.
balance thing too, which you can talk about. But it sounds like it's more physical therapy and medical side. But for
Right.
OT, what do you do as an registered occupational therapist at the clinic? And do you make use of any of these new technologies?
Yeah, great question. I work alongside the physiotherapists and kinesiologists who do the gait and balance training. And so, as I'm sure you know, and I'm sure a lot of people out there can appreciate that when you have some kind of neurological illness that it, or any kind of brain trauma, it really affects the whole brain. And
Mm,
so though we are focusing on gait and balance training in the PONS program, there's a lot more going on for most of the people than strictly gait and balance deficit.
yes, yeah,
Yeah, and so one of the complaints that people come in with quite often is their cognition isn't working quite as much as well as it was before the injury or before the onset of the illness. And so, as an occupational therapist, that's something that is it's an area that interests me personally a lot. It always has, and so that's an area that I like to sort of hone in on and focus on with folks in the PONS program and outside of the program. So as well in our concussion assessment and treatment program, we do some cognitive rehabilitation there as well.
I actually just in my getting my months messed up here, so I'm not going to even April or May, April I think. I talked
Mm-hmm.
to the concussion OTs on Instagram. They're you have to in Toronto, Neurology Center of Toronto, and the
Mm-hmm.
OTs about to focus on their work a lot on people with concussion, brain injury, and
Mm-hmm.
they're interested in the same thing, and they're saying that a lot of people have a problem with just operating in their house and just like
Mm-hmm.
doing laundry and doing dishes and just well keeping schedules and stuff like that as well. Also, but
Mm-hmm.
so I guess upon the physical abilities that they're hopefully that this Pons device will help them enable will also lead to their just around the house and in their occupation, for example, in their job. Not that just
Yeah.
help them in that sense as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's funny you mentioned Toronto. Toronto is my alma mater, the University of Toronto, for
Oh yeah,
my OT degree. Yeah.
that's great.
So there's a good chance I might even know the OTs that
Um,
you mentioned there.
their concussion OTs on Instagram. Jenny Diamond and
Yes.
Gabby Kaplan.
Yeah, I know Jenny quite well.
Okay.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Um,
She's
yeah,
she's, she's seems like she's seems like the she deals with the adult population, and
yes.
Gabby deals with children mostly. I believe I have that. I
Uh,
hope I have that right.
yeah, that does sound right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, of course, yeah, it's when you've had a concussion or more severe injury to the brain, or really anything that's going on neurologically, it affects your entire life. And
Mm,
that that really is the domain of occupational therapy, is all of
yeah.
the things that you do, all the things that you miss doing, or that you want to get back to doing, or that you're having trouble doing. And so through a lot of different kinds of strategies and education, we can often help people to get back to doing those things a little bit sooner, or find ways to modify so that they can do things they might not otherwise be able to.
And actually, I'll give you an opportunity again to just plug OT again more, because I remember I asked them a question which I hope and I think they appreciate more, that occupational therapy is not about just a job. Occupation as we think of it today mostly. Most people think of occupation as a job, but occupational therapy is for much more than that.
Yes, yes. I'm so happy you're bringing attention to that, because,
Yeah.
it is a fairly common misconception when I say that I'm an occupational therapist. A lot of people think that I really do just work with people in the
Yeah.
context of
Help people
their
find
job.
work and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's really not it at all.
No.
It's really more so, an occupation is defined as anything that you do that occupies your time. So it can be things as simple as
Yeah.
tying your shoelaces, to as complicated as driving, or even it can be working. And that's another area that I work with a lot of people towards, is getting them back to work after an injury, or usually a concussion.
And speaking of concussions, as I mentioned earlier, the concussion section of your website is enormous, and I think it's great. And there's a lot of good explanations. So if anybody wants to see that, go to SNPC. Is that right? Yeah,
That's right.
snpc.tech, and
Yeah,
it's under services. Is that right?
that's right. Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, you see a lot of patients with concussion, and what sort of intervention or treatment the whole team, not just you, but the whole team?
Mhm.
How would you, if someone walked into SNPC and said, "Okay, help me," basically, what would you do? Like, first of all, for your
Yes.
whole
So
clinic.
we always say we can't treat what we can't measure.
Right.
So we would start out by doing some assessments. Before we even get into that, I take the time to really sit down with the person, and hear all about, what happened, and how long ago, and what have you been doing since, and what are you really struggling with now, and what symptoms do you have. And so we take that time for me to really get an understanding of what's going on for that individual, because every injury in every person's life is really so different. And then in that time as well, I like to explain a little bit more about, what is concussion, and what happens after your brain has had a concussion. How do we, work towards getting back to that sense of normal, or not having all of these symptoms, and being able to do all the things you want to do. So after that, we do some assessments, and we look at a lot of different areas that are affected by brain injury. So, of course, cognition is one of them. So we do a cognitive assessment, and we also use the neurocatch to look objectively what is going on in that person's brain, how fast is it responding to stimulus, and balance and gait is another area that is really important to look
And I
at.
know you have technology there as well.
We sure do.
Neurocom.
Yes, yeah, exactly. The neurocom. So it's a really we nerd out about it a lot. It's really cool. So it kind of looks like a phone booth that you step up into, but it has a force plate. So you step up onto this force plate. You can't wear shoes. You got to be, in your bare feet or socks, and you're standing on this force plate, and the force plate can move back and forth, and then the walls around you can also move. So by taking you through, we do this test called the sensory organization test. And by taking you through these 6 different conditions, varying, are your eyes open? Are your eyes closed? Is the force plate moving? Are the walls moving? We can pinpoint where is it in your brain's balance system that the breakdown is happening. So is it your vision? Is it your vestibular system? Or is it your somatosensory system, your proprioception? And so from there, it gives us a really powerful objective measurement of balance that allows us to hone in and treat that specific problem.
Okay, and so then you decide. So, who do you have on in the clinic? Do you have you're there, OT, kinesiologists, and physiotherapists,
Yeah.
and doctor, dietitian.
It's primarily occupational therapy, physiotherapy, and kinesiology.
Okay,
We have neurologists who work with their own private practices or in the
right.
community who we collaborate with. And as well, we have some counselors and psychologists who we collaborate with as needed. But primarily, yeah, it's sort of the 3 disciplines. And so kinesiologists do a lot of this kind of testing. So they often do the sensory organization test. They often run the neurocatch. Otherwise, occupational therapy, we do the cognitive testing, and then physiotherapy looks more so, at your neck. We also have these goggles that are they're optometric goggles. So
What does that
the
mean?
so they can look really up close at your eyeball and what's going on with your eyeball when you're in these
Okay.
different positions. So it's not a very flattering view, but it gives us a lot of information. So the physiotherapist will put these goggles on you, and then they have a good view of what your eye is doing, and if they can kind of put you in these different positions and kind of turn your head to activate the semicircular canals in your inner ear, it can give them information about how your brain is processing that. So if your eyes start doing these kind of weird flickery movements that we call nystagmus,
Yeah,
depending on which
I
direction
have
that's in.
that.
Did you? Yeah.
Yeah, still do. I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a really weird thing to see in the
Yeah.
video.
No, I do. I used to now. I don't COVID. Should I do this? Just student as med student like as a standardized patient at the med school here in St. John's, Newfoundland,
Mm.
and
Hmm.
they do the finger. Just so I help med students do the assessment of someone. They don't know what's wrong with me, but or what my condition is. But they do the finger in front of the face thing. I follow it, and
Yeah.
I go to the left. My eyes kind of jump, like as you said, kind of shake or skip, like
Hmm.
yeah. So I know
Yeah.
they notice that definitely. All of them do.
Yeah, exactly. And that can often contribute to a lot of the symptoms of dizziness
Yes,
that
it
people
does.
will report.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, and often too with concussion, there will be some of these visual problems going on, but because they're so subtle, they might not be noticeable in just day-to-day life. And so by getting this nice close-up look at the person's eye,
Yeah,
we can see those subtle changes and then treat them.
right. And actually, I'm gonna go back to your the name of your clinic now, Surrey Neuroplasticity Clinic, because the first time I heard of the term neuroplasticity was from my physiotherapist, Jen Shears. Another
Mm-hmm.
shout out to her here, and
Mm-hmm.
she is a big proponent of that. That was just such an important. This is back in '03. This is such an important issue to bring up and talk about, and not to talk about, but that's the way it's just she learned about how to treat people with brain injury and stuff. And so, Can you explain to people exactly what neuroplasticity is, as far as you know, that way? And also, if someone came into your clinic or a patient of yours says to you, "So what is neuroplasticity?" How would you explain it to them?
Yeah, it's a question that I've definitely gotten a few times before,
Yeah,
given the name of our clinic,
yeah,
and it's a fairly complicated word, so it's tricky for some people to spell when I'm just giving them the name.
yeah,
So yeah, so neuroplasticity, neuro meaning the brain, and plasticity meaning plastic or changeable. So essentially, the term, when taken really literally, means that the brain is changeable.
yeah.
And this is a really, like you say, a really important concept and a really important change that happened over 20, 30 years ago. Even 10 years ago, it wasn't really that accepted. It was thought that after childhood your brain was really just stuck the way it was, and there
Yeah.
was this talk of, if you
No, you had
lose brain
issue. Yeah.
cells.
When I was first injured, it was still like I said. I mean, like in '03, so that was 17 years ago when Shears was big into this. Neuroplasticity was a very important topic, and it was just becoming more accepted. But it was a slow process, and not everyone was on board, like as in as much as we could find out then. But still, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of people, even now, it's not a topic that I think very many people know a lot about. It's sort of become a bit of a buzzword, but it took a long time for the scientific community and clinicians to sort of take on the fact that neuroplasticity is real, and your brain isn't just stuck in the way that it was after you were born. And when injury happens, it doesn't mean that that it's permanent or that there's no function that can't be gained back. The brain is really amazing because it can change. It can change itself, and it does that by using stimulus that you put into it through your senses.
Right.
So what this means to me as a therapist is that there's never, there's always hope. Never that,
Right.
this is all you've gotten back and that's it. There's always more that you can do, and your brain can always change.
Yeah, that must be such a when then the rehabilitation therapies became more aware of this concept of neuroplasticity. It must have really changed the way they viewed the OTs, physios, speech therapists, how they viewed their role and and the whole it's what sort of look for not the not industry but the practice,
Yeah,
whatever, the practice of therapy and how it and how it's
rehabilitation.
realization and how it's approached, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, as an occupational therapist, often what our role is to help people to sort of adjust to injury or to
Yeah,
adjust to neurological disease, and that can come in the way of helping them find a wheelchair that works for them, or
right.
helping them to find different eating utensils that they can now use. And so a lot of these treatments are what we would call compensatory. So they're sort of working around the fact that now
Yeah,
there's certain things that have changed for
a
that
new
person.
a new reality for that person.
Yeah,
It's kind of like
yeah,
akin to now in the COVID
yeah.
for as a new reality.
In this new reality, exactly.
Yeah,
And so, while it is still important to make those adjustments, and that's always going to it's always going to be the case, because even with neuroplasticity, the the rehabilitation takes time.
yeah.
But
It
now
sure
we have
does.
this other approach that we can take that's called remediation, and so we can train different through different activities, and the more functional, like the more everyday life sort of activities, are the best ones to train through. We can train these activities, and we can help people regain function, so not just compensate.
And the technology they have available is really helps you to do that. The objective assessments and the more rehabilitative uh, technologies such as like the neurocom is more rehabilitative technology, whereas the neurocatch is more of a diagnosable diagnose thing, objective assessment. Is that
Yeah, Yeah, the assessments, so the Neurocom sensory organization test, it actually does a little bit of both. So you can do some rehabilitation tasks in there and work on balance, but
Yeah.
you can also use it as an assessment. So with that and the NeuroCatch, we're able to take these really objective readings that don't have the sort of therapist bias, or the,
Right.
well, how many times did they fall out of the
Yeah.
position?
Or I know that person there. It's just a bad day. Yeah.
Yeah,
Kind of thing. Yeah.
yeah, and so it helps us to really pinpoint our treatment, and that way it goes faster because we're able to work on the areas that need it the most.
It's more
And as
efficient.
Yeah, and as far as treatment goes, the PONS device, it's been used for people who've found that they've sort of plateaued in their therapy
Mm.
and in their recovery. For people who've maybe been working on it for 3, 5 years, sometimes even longer, and they've sort of gotten to this place that they can't seem to get past, no matter how much physiotherapy they've done or how much occupational therapy they've done. And when they come into the PONS program, it's sort of like a reset button in a way. And so they work through this program that's 14 weeks. So the PONS
Well,
device,
it's a whole system. It's a
it's
whole
a whole
schedule.
program.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
So the device, it goes along with a 14-week physical therapy program that focuses on balance and gait training. And so the brain, it doesn't just change by putting a little reset button in. You got to
yeah.
really do the work.
Yes.
And I'm sure and anybody who's been
Yes.
through rehabilitation, it's a lot of work. And this training program is no different. One thing that we know about neuroplasticity is that repetition is key to get the brain to
Yeah. Yeah.
change. So,
It's
in other
actually
words,
one of the
practice.
things. Sorry. Sorry, go
Sorry,
ahead.
I was just gonna say practice makes perfect. It's one of those things.
Yeah, no, like it was like repetition. Like last week, or not last week, 2 weeks ago, I was talking to Modus Nova out of Atlanta. They have a
Mm-hmm.
therapeutic. Yeah, she kind of leads me to the next question about your. I'll get that in a second. But they have a there's hand foot mentors, just like as as AI robotic system that lets people recover, helping them recover from stroke or MS or Parkinson's or any brain injury. But using repetition in this device that actually the physiotherapists and OTs can program, and the AI kind of feeds back and to help them do repetition at home. It's a device they can bring home. They can use at home when they can't get to the clinic necessarily. Which leads me to their other big issue that Modus Nova member wanted to talk about was and I know you want to know word for telehealth, and so the telehealth aspect of all of this was
Mm-hmm.
the SNPC and telehealth. What's going on there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so of course, when COVID hit, there's just been a huge need for telehealth services. Luckily, we had already been doing telehealth for a lot of our clients, because a lot of people who come to the PONS program find us from other countries.
Oh
So
yeah.
we had people come all the way from Australia, lots of people from the US, and across Canada as well.
So
And this was
do you send them to a PONS device, or do they as you come to get you have to come to your clinic?
Yeah, so the program, through the 14 weeks, the first 2 weeks are done in the clinic, and then the remaining 12 weeks are done at home. So you do have to come in for the first 2 weeks, but then after that, you can do the program from home.
Yeah, great.
Now, of course, like any physiotherapy, really best results are done in person. But
Obviously, yeah,
if you live in Australia and you can't stay here for 14 weeks, or, if it's
yeah,
COVID and it's risky to go out,
yeah.
then of course telehealth is an option. And so we were doing telehealth with our clients who were in that at home phase of the PONS program already. And in addition, I even personally, I do a lot of telehealth with people who I'm working with who are recovering from concussion. And
Mm.
occupational therapy lends itself usually quite well to the telehealth platform.
Great.
That's pretty beneficial as well. But since COVID hit, there's been a few areas that we've tried to sort of expand our telehealth offerings. And one of those areas is assessment, because often, assessments they're done in the clinic, and they can be a little bit more challenging to transition to a telehealth platform when you want to really see that person doing the thing. Or, we have this big phone booth box, like the SOT machine, the neurocom, that people need to come in and stand inside of. But we have developed some assessments that we can do over telehealth that will allow us to get a picture of what's going on for people after they've had a concussion and start treatment. And our hope is that this will, of course, help people in this time of COVID. But even beyond that, there's lots of people in Canada and British Columbia who live in really rural communities and don't have access to this type of care. So we want to offer that to them as well.
That's great. And all this talk of technology and telehealth also leads me to that you just because I've read out you in the about section of the snpc.tech website about your involvement with yoga and how you use that for in your occupational therapy practice. So I'll let you I guess to finish off, unless you have other matters you'd like to address, other things you'd like to talk about the clinic does that I have not brought up. But
no,
otherwise,
I think we've captured it well.
Great. Well, then I'll let you talk about yoga and how you use yoga in your occupational therapy practice and in your life generally.
Yeah. So yoga really helped me personally with managing my own anxiety. And that's where I found the power in yoga, not just being, a physical practice, but being something that can go a little bit deeper and that can stay with you as well, and give you tools for when you're off the mat. And so I ended up finding out about the Love Your Brain yoga.
Are you an instructor?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I'll speak away.
Yeah. I got my yoga teacher training, and then I went to Boston last summer to do the Love Your Brain yoga instructor program. And they had one that they had just started offering that was specifically for healthcare professionals. So I found that really, really interesting and really useful. So we have offered Love Your Brain yoga at our clinic, and we will be offering it again. And I use it in my own practice with my clients in both the sort of like breathing techniques and meditation tools, as well as the more physical tools and practices. So yoga is absolutely fabulous for honing that mind-body connection and that. And after an injury, even an injury that you would think is purely physical, like breaking your arm, you can start to have this sort of strange dissociation with that affected area. And when you've had a brain injury, this can sort of happen, especially if you have symptoms like dizziness or you're kind of feeling lightheaded, you can start to feel like you're sort of not in your own body. And yoga can help you to start to rebuild that connection again.
Yeah, no, I don't. There's no Love Your Brain yoga is not available in Newfoundland, right? As of yet, at least. But or in Newfoundland, Labrador, I should say. But I do yoga, at least just twice a week. Not doing it twice, sometimes 3 times a week now. But yeah, no, I mean, even there's not Love Your Brain yoga. I think it's great, and yeah. So I mean, it's not an advertisement for yoga or anything like that, but I mean, it's not this podcast is for, but still like I think it's very important that it helps you at least get you moving at least so people understand their body. At least the mind body connection is so important after a brain injury, especially.
Yeah.
So yeah. So yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, the Love Your Brain Yoga Foundation is they're just so wonderful, and they're doing fantastic work. Kyla especially is leading the way with a lot of research into their program, and they've been able to back up a lot of the claims that yogis have been making for centuries, really, about the power of yoga, and they've been able to back that up with science. So it's been really great to see that there's a foundation like that that's doing such great work, and that also allows me then to bring it confidently into my occupational therapy practice, now that I have evidence that I can refer to in the literature.
Exactly. Great. Yeah, no, that's great. And I think it's very, very important. And your clinic sounds like just a very, really remarkable place, interesting place. And like you said, it's so new. It just started last year, but March of 2019, April of 2019. And so it's very young and very technology. And except I like how they really endorse, or like, what's the word? Endorse the, well, just endorse is a word I can use enough, but the technology in rehabilitation and brain, when it comes to brain injury and MS, Parkinson's, and any other neurological condition, but really how technology is there. It's technology is there to help us, and as long as we start using it, instead of being scared about it or worried about the effects of technology, look at the benefits it can help us, it can do for us, and why it was invented in the first place. Why these new devices were invented in the first place was to help the people live better lives, and so I think that's great what you guys are doing, and yeah. So I'll let you, as you first, tell how people, if people are either in Surrey, Vancouver, or BC, or anywhere in the world, frankly, want to reach out, well, not reach out necessarily, but just research you and then reach out and contact you. Where can they do that?
Yeah, go to our website. It's snpc.tech, which is spelled TECH. And you can find all of our contact info there, all the information about our services. And I would encourage you to book a 15-minute phone call. We offer free 15-minute phone calls with our clinicians. And so if you have, some burning questions, or you're wondering, do you have something that might help me? You can always book one of those calls and speak with one of our clinicians directly. And we can, let you know what we have that might be able to help. We also offer free online classes for a whole bunch of different topics. So we have some that are for dizziness, others for moving when you have MS, and you can find the information and how to sign up for those free classes as well on our website.
That was great. Thanks. I'm actually going to go back now, and I wrote a little underneath, like, short description of what this podcast would be about. So posted underneath the podcast description, which people have already read by now or not looked at at all. But I'm gonna add a link to your concussion section of your webpage on the description. So I put a link to the website, a link to SMP Tech, and but also add a link to the concussion portion of the website, which is very pertinent, obviously, to hopefully the listeners of this podcast. So yeah. So again, thank you so much, Melissa, and I obviously wish nothing but the best of luck for Surrey Neuroplasticity Clinic, and anyone who goes there, and to you personally, in your helping your patients and clients. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great to chat.
Again, please consider rating and subscribing to Concussion Talk Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And please visit www.concussiontalk.com for more podcasts and my blogs. Thank you so much for listening to episode 70, and I hope you listen again soon. As always, the music at the beginning of this podcast is by Ben Sound, www.bensound.com.